During a presser, a reporter asked Donald Trump when it would be over. Trump thought about it for a moment, then he said, thoughtful, "When I feel it in my bones, not when Iran surrenders, not when the Strait of Hormuz reopens, not when a ceasefire is signed or a diplomatic framework is agreed, when the President of the United States feels it in his bones. It is the current timeline for ending the most disruptive military conflict the global energy market has ever seen." On the same day that answer was given, the Pentagon announced it was sending 2,200 Marines and a Navy amphibious assault ship to the Middle East. The ship is the USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault vessel based in Japan. It is now sailing toward the Gulf, carrying with it what military planners describe as a Marine Expeditionary Unit. Serious helicopter gunships, armed infantry, special operations teams, armored vehicles, transport aircraft, and landing craft designed to put troops on a hostile shore. The unit was requested by U.S. Central Command and personally approved by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the stated mission to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This is the moment the source script correctly identifies as the turning point nobody wants to say out loud. What began as an air campaign, American and Israeli jets and drones and missiles striking Iranian military targets from altitude, from standoff distance, from the safety of the sky, is now on day 14th becoming something else. The Marines who are boarding USS Tripoli in Japan are not bombing crews. They are infantry. They are the people you send when you need to take something physically, hold something physically, or fight someone physically in a confined space near water. Their arrival in the Gulf will change the nature of what is happening there. It will also expose them to a threat environment that is unlike anything an American Marine has faced since the last time the United States put ground forces into the Middle East. And the last time that happened, it took 2 decades to end. Hegseth held a press conference Friday morning. He stood at the podium and said the United States is on plan to defeat, destroy, disable all of their meaningful military capabilities at a pace the world has never seen before. He said U.S. and Israeli forces have struck more than 15,000 Iranian targets since February 28th. He said Iran's production lines, its military plants, and its defense innovation centers are defeated. He said Iran's leadership is desperate and hiding, whether that they have gone underground, cowering. And then he used a specific word. He said that is what rats do. Then he said something that shifted the tone of every news conference of this war. He said we know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. No evidence was provided, no photograph, no medical report, no intelligence assessment read into the public record. Hegseth said he knows Moshtaba Kham, the man who 1 week ago was named Supreme Leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The man whose first public statement was delivered without video or audio on Thursday is wounded and likely disfigured. He pointed to the absence of video as proof. He said Iran has cameras. It has voice recorders. If the Supreme Leader is capable of appearing on television, why is his statement being read by a news anchor? His father dead. He's scared. He's injured. He's on the run. And he lacks legitimacy. Hegseth told reporters, it's a mess for them. Who's in charge? Iran may not even know. And 1 hour later in Tehran, a public rally was held for Al-Quds Day, the annual event that draws tens of thousands into the streets of the Iranian capital. Standing at that rally, visible to photographers, visible to the crowd, were 2 senior Iranian government officials, President Masoud Pezeshkian and Ali Larijani, the head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. The same Larijani who 10 days ago threatened to turn off the lights across the entire Middle East within 30 minutes if America touched Iran's power grid. Both men were present. Both men were in public. Neither man was underground. Neither man was cowering. Neither man was behaving like a rat. The rats, it appears, had planned a public rally. This is the information gap that defines day 14 of this war, more precisely than any missile count or ship attack or oil price number. The United States Secretary of Defense stood at a Pentagon podium and described Iran's leadership as broken, hidden, and disfigured. The Iran he was describing simultaneously held a mass public rally attended by its president and its top security official in broad daylight in the capital of the country that is supposedly being destroyed at a pace the world has never seen. Between those two realities, Hegseth's podium and Thran's streets lies the actual state of this war on its 14th day. And into that gap, the United States is now sailing 2,200 Marines. To understand why deploying Marines to the Strait of Hormuz is different from everything that has happened before in this war, you need to understand what the strait actually looks like as a military environment and why the people who know it best have been the most reluctant to send anyone there. The Strait of Hormuz is 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. On one side is Iran with a coastline that stretches for hundreds of kilometers along the eastern shore of the Gulf. On that coastline, Iran has spent decades positioning anti-H ship missiles in hardened installations, mobile launchers, underground facilities, and concealed batteries designed specifically to engage naval vessels trying to force passage. These are not improvised weapons. Iran's coastal defense missile inventory includes systems with ranges measured in hundreds of kilometers, meaning a missile battery located well inland from the Iranian coast can still reach a ship in the middle of the strait. The United States has been striking Iranian military targets continuously since February 28th. It has struck more than 15,000 targets. According to HEG, but here's the problem that no press conference can resolve. Iran's coastal missile infrastructure was built to survive sustained air attack. The launchers are mobile, the missiles are stored in underground bunkers, the crews disperse and relocate. Destroying a missile launcher takes one strike. Destroying every missile launcher, every mobile launcher, every underground storage site, every crew with the knowledge to operate the system. That is a different order of magnitude entirely. And it is the precondition that American military planners describe to CENTCOM before any Marine goes anywhere near the strait. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said this week that Navy escorts for commercial ships through the strait could begin soon. He added that before such escorts begin, the military is planning to target land-based anti-H ship missiles that Iran has deployed near the waterway. The sequencing is logical. The problem is that Iran has had 2 weeks to watch American targeting priorities and adjust accordingly. Every mobile launcher that was in a fixed location on February 27th is now somewhere else. The intelligence picture that existed before February 28th, built from years of satellite observation, signals, intercepts, and human sources, has been partially invalidated by the movement of the very assets it was designed to track. The Marines on USS Trip are not being sent to operate in a cleared environment. They are being sent to force the creation of one. The mission seizing or neutralizing Iranian-held islands near the Strait or establishing positions that could screen commercial shipping from missile attack is the kind of operation for which Marine expeditionary units were specifically designed. The MEU can launch helicopter assaults, land amphibious forces on a hostile shore, and establish a perimeter in contested territory faster than any other American military unit. It can also suffer casualties faster than any other American military unit in exactly these conditions. The source material notes what Iranian leadership has said publicly in response. Forget about ceasefire. Iran's senior military figures have stated that Iran has unlimited missiles, that it has America by the throat, and that it does not intend to let go. Whether that is true or rhetoric, it describes the environment the Marines are sailing into. Iran's Lahrani made the broader stakes explicit when he appeared publicly in Tehran on Friday. The same day, Hex called Iranian leaders rats hiding underground and refused to engage with the latest American overtures on stopping the war. The shipping numbers tell the story of what is at stake. According to Lloyd's List Intelligence, only 77 ships have transited the Strait of Hormuz so far in March 2026. In the same period last year, 229 ships made that passage. That is a collapse of approximately 94%. More than 1,000 cargo vessels are anchored outside the strait waiting. The insurance market has withdrawn. The world's shipping companies will not send their crews into those waters at any price the global economy can currently sustain. European nations, including Germany, France, and Italy, are no longer waiting for American naval escorts. They are talking directly to Iran, asking permission to pass. India has moved further. Indian diplomats have reportedly secured an arrangement allowing 2 LPG tankers through the strait as part of a bilateral discussion with Tehran. Countries that are formally at peace with the United States are quietly negotiating with the country the United States is currently bombing every day. This is what Iran's strategy looks like when it works. Not military victory, but political fragmentation of the coalition, or in this case, the absence of a coalition that the United States assumed would hold together behind the war. CENTCOM's own planners acknowledged to Congress this week that they had not fully incorporated a scenario in which Iran would actually close the strait. It was considered a possibility, not a plan. The plan was for a quick campaign. Mosh Deba would be discredited, Iranians would rise up, and the war would end in days. Trump said 4 days, maybe a week. On day 14th, 2,200 Marines are sailing toward the narrowest point in the world's most critical energy corridor. The bones have not felt it yet. Here's what the deployment of 2,200 Marines actually tells you about how this war is going, stated not in the language of press conferences, but in the language of military logic. You do not send a Marine Expeditionary Unit to a theater of operations where the air campaign has already achieved its objectives. You send a Marine Expeditionary Unit when the air campaign has not achieved a specific objective that now needs to be achieved by other means. The objective in this case is the Strait of Hormuz. 2 weeks of the most intensive American air campaign since the Second World War have not reopened it. The drone boats are still there. The mines are still there. The coastal missiles are still there, or they have been relocated but not destroyed. The 94% collapse in shipping traffic is still happening, and so the Marines are coming. This escalation has a logic, and the logic is economic as much as military. The global economy cannot sustain 94% reduction in Gulf shipping indefinitely. Oil prices have traded between 88 and 117 on per barrel in the last 2 weeks, swinging on every statement made by every official on every side. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve has released 400 million barrels in an attempt to suppress prices. But that reserve is finite, and the release is a stopgap, not a solution. The solution is the Strait, and the Strait will not be reopened by statements at Pentagon press conferences. Haig said on Friday that this is the most intense day of bombing yet in Operation Epic Fury. He said Iran's air force is gone, its navy is gone, its missiles are being depleted, its leadership is underground. He put a $10 million bounty on Moshtaba Kameh through the State Department's Rewards for Justice program. 9 other Iranian officials were added to the same list: Larijani, the intelligence minister, the interior minister, the IRGC commander, and others. The United States government is now offering money to anyone who can provide information on the location of Iran's supreme leader, the same man it cannot confirm is alive or dead or wounded or functional. Trump told G7 leaders in a private call this week that Moshtaba is not in good shape and that nobody knows who's the leader, so there's no one that can announce surrender. Read that sentence carefully. The President of the United States told the leaders of the world's 7 largest economies that his war has reached a point where no one on the Iranian side is in a position to end it, even if they wanted to. There's no phone number to call. There's no authority to negotiate with. Peskin has no real power. Mojaba is the supreme leader, and the IRGC answers to him or to whoever is actually making decisions in his place. Mojtaba cannot be reached, and the IRGC, which has its own institutional interest in continuing this war, is not looking for a way out. Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy, has sent a message through Oman. Larijani responded publicly at the Al-Quds Day rally, visible to the crowd and the cameras, by refusing. That is Iran's answer to the latest American peace signal. A public appearance in Tehran on the day America said Iranian leaders are hiding underground, with a message that the strait stays closed, the war continues, and the only acceptable outcome is American withdrawal from the region. And yet the Marines are sailing, because what else do you do when the air campaign has run for 2 weeks and the strait is still closed and the bones have not told you when it ends? The source material makes a comparison that deserves to be taken seriously. This is not Afghanistan, where America fought for 21 years in mountains against fighters with small arms and improvised explosives. Iran has ballistic missiles, drone boats, sea mines, coastal anti-hit missile batteries, a proxy network that runs from Iraq to Lebanon to Yemen, a new supreme leader whose location and condition are unknown to American intelligence, and a population that, according to the CIA's own assessment, has not risen up against its government and shows no signs of doing so. It has something else Afghanistan did not have: oil and the ability to use control of the world's most critical energy corridor as leverage against every country on Earth that needs fuel. The Marines will arrive. The most intense bombing campaign yet will continue. Trump will wait to feel it in his bones. The bones may be waiting a long time. In the meantime, in Tehran, at an Al-Quds Day rally, Johnny and Peskin stood in front of tens of thousands of people while Hakes called Iranian leaders rats. The crowd was chanting, the cameras were rolling, there was no bunker, there was no hiding, there was instead a very public message to Washington: we are still here, we are still standing, and you are still sending more. 2 of 200 Marines are sailing toward the Strait of Hormuz. 13 Americans are already dead. Trump says he'll know when it's over when he feels it. Iran says it will keep fighting until the last American base in the Middle East is closed and every soldier is on a plane home. One side has a gut feeling, the other has a strategy.